Okay, so yesterday last session we are discussing about validations. Okay, we have one more type of validation, that is declare constraints. Okay, so constraints very rarely we will use. So instead of using the constraints, we can go with the page level validations also. But if you have any inside the page level validations, if you comparing any properties, for example, yesterday's we have seen comparing strings and comparing integers. Okay, like that. So when we'll go with the declare constraints means anytime if you want to compare properties like comparing strings or any data types, so then we'll go with the declare constraints rule. Okay, so any comparing more than one property, if you want to compare means then we'll go with the declare constraints. So and these at the time of comparing the strings or anything, again these will be validation or fixed validations, but at the time of defining the function, right? So these functions will use the same functions from the page level. In the validation tool yesterday, whatever the functions we used, same functions we'll use in declare constraints also, but the thing is these are fixed validations. But yesterday what are the page level validations we defined? So those are, so page level means it applies to only that page only, because there we have to configure inside a flow action. But here once we define a validation, so these validations are fixed, but we'll use the same functions which we used in the process validate rule. Okay, I will show one example. So these comes under declarative rules. So constraints comes under declarative rules, because so these are also one type of conditions only. So even though it is like a validation, generally these are one type of conditions. So go to decision category. So click on constraints. So here in these constraints the logic will be like this: when something is true, require that something else has to be true. Okay, like this we can compare the properties. It will open in a new window, pop-up window. So inside the constraints rule, first of all, here also we have to, while defining the condition inside the constraint, so what is the property name we have to choose. So the logic will be like this: when something is to require that something else has to be true, else add a message to the, for which property we are defining this message we have to write here. So first of all we'll select a function. So if you go to the arrow here, so same functions, what are the functions we have in the process validate option, same functions we'll have here also. So mostly compare functions will be there. Okay, so first numbers, for example, first string relation second string. For example, we'll use a different way. Okay, requires that is not mandatory for all the things. If you want, we can give. So requires that means it should not be equal to. So the first name should not be equal to last name, so we have to give the condition here. If it is equal, when the function is, when the strings are equal means we can define a message. And for which property you want to define that message, we can select the property name here. So only difference here is, so these are fixed validations. If you same functions we can also define using the process validate also, but there, so at page level we are going to define the function, but here at property level. Okay, so wherever we use the first name and last name properties in all the pages, and every time wherever you use these two fields, the validation, default validation will apply at property level. Okay, so this is like, so the difference between these three is, so if you compare, so difference between property validations and this declare constraints is, both will trigger at property level only. Okay, both the validations will define at property level only, but the difference is when you define any property validations by from the advanced category, there will use the scripting. Okay, there will use Java scripting will use. Okay, mute your microphones. Okay, Harita, mute your microphones. There we will use scripting like a Java source code we will use, but here the difference is, here we will use functions, predefined functions we will use. And difference between process validate, that is what are the validations we are defining from the process category is there, right? Page level validations are there, right? So difference between these process validations and declare constraints is, functions are same, but so while defining the conditions, these are fixed conditions, but these conditions will vary from page to page. So like this, so which one is most suitable for your requirement, we'll go with that type of conditions. Means like all are validations only, but in the form of conditions we'll define here. Okay, so which type of validation is most suitable, we have to go with that type. Okay, so maximum we'll go with either page level or property level conditions. So very rarely, if you have a scenario like string comparison, if you want to map throughout the application same condition, if you want to do this, then we can go with the declare constraints also. Okay, so like this, so very rarely we'll use declare constraints. So most of the time property validations and page validations we'll use. Okay, that is nothing but rule edit validate and rule object validates. Okay, now we will see, so how to use the harness in the, so harness we have in the user interface. Actually harness is basically user interface rule. Okay, the difference between harness in user interface is, tell me. Okay, tell me. So uniqueness, here we don't have functions here, so compulsory you have to go with the property validations only. So here in the uniqueness means what? Uniqueness means, okay, uniqueness means what? First of all, uniqueness we will not define, you will define at server level Gmails, what are the emails account you are using. At that server level we will not configure any new email address right here. Already existing email address only we will take here. So uniqueness will not means application level we will just use the email ID just, but we will not create any new email IDs, right? Okay, so uniqueness concept not required here. So that one will be taken care by the, what are the email account you are using. So that one will taken care by the email accounts. So here set server level, if there is any errors or if it is not matching with the database server, it will check only. Uniqueness will not required here. Okay. And coming to the harness in the user interface and harness from the process. Okay, process means nothing but, so either any flow. Okay, in the flows also we'll use this harness option. Okay, so the difference between these two is inside the user interface, it can be harness can be used to create a new work object. It can be used to create new work objects, means some new screens it will generate. And inside the flow, the purpose of the harness is to change the appearance of the work object. Change the appearance of the work object. So, but inside user interface, harness is a rule, and inside flows, harness is just an option. Okay, so mainly harness is a rule from the user interface rule type, and inside the flows, harness is just a option given. Okay, option we are using inside the flows, and the difference in user interface is, so between user interface and flows is, inside user interface, harness can be used to create new work objects, and inside flows, it will be used to change the appearance. The work object means nothing but some case, okay, or some whatever the form we are designing, right? So that is nothing but a work object. So change the appearance of a page and change the appearance of the, or creating a new form. So that is nothing but a user interface. And difference between flow action and harness. Again, if you compare user interface rules like flow action and harness, so what is the difference between flow action and what is the difference between harness means? Okay, common thing is both are container of a sections. So in the flow action is a container of a section, and harness is also container of section. But the difference here is, so inside the harness, the purpose is, so here it will open a new work object. So when we will use a harness means, if you want to open a new separate work object, if you want to open means, we will define in the harness. But if you want to go within the flow, means in a flow, if you want to move forward or move backward in a flow means, we will configure in a flow action. So if you want to like series of pages, if you want to configure means, series of pages if you want to configure means, you will configure inside a flow action. And only one single page if you want to open separately, if you want to open one single page means, we can configure in a harness. And apart from that, here we can add our own custom buttons. Okay, any new configure means, whenever you want to configure a new page, like, and when this harness will work means, mostly some controls like buttons, whenever we click on button, it will open some new form or anything, or whenever you click on any link, it will open some new form. So like that. So mostly harness we'll use with the controls, like if you want to configure a link or any button, we'll use the harness option. And we can also do the same thing with flow action also, but most of the time link configurations and button controls if we use, we will use harness. And if you want to normal series of flows means, if you want to add series of pages in a flow means, then in a normal scenarios we'll go with the flow action. Okay, any new form if you want to open, like whenever you want to configure a link or button, so those sections will configure inside a harness. Okay, so generally both are content of a section, but when we will use a flow action means, like series of forms if you want to design means, in a flow you have to configure from a flow action. And only one single form, only one page if you want to open separately means, a new form if you want to open means, you will configure inside a harness rule. Okay, now I'll show one scenario. So how to configure this harness and how to map the section inside the harness, I'll show you now. Okay, then I'll show the difference between the flows. Okay, harness inside flows I'll tell later. So first of all we will see, so how to configure a harness. So first of all, if you want to configure a harness means, so first of all we have to create a section, and this section we have to drag and drop inside a harness rule. Okay, so we'll take a scenario which we used in the last session. Yesterday we created a validation screen, something login screen is there, right? I'm going to use that one. So in that login screen I'm having some link option is there. Okay, so I will use that link, and from that link I'm going to configure the harness rule. So my requirement is, if I click on this link, so it should open the page inside the harness rule. It should open. So generally it will open in a flow action. Okay, in the previous sessions if we remember, so login link we used the flow action in order to open the screen. So this time, so instead of using a flow action, we can use a harness rule here. Okay, so how to do that? See, if I click on this link option, it should perform some action and it should open the harness rule. Okay, so first of all, what are the screen you want to display, right? What are the screen you want to display? First of all, define that screen inside a section only. So we'll create a section. So means using that section rule, so what are the page you want to display? We will define the properties and all, and I'm going to add a new section here. I'm giving the name as registration section, user registration section. And inside this I'm going to define properties. If we have any properties here, we're using them. So add property names. Okay, save this form. Okay, now this section we have to generally will configure this section inside a flow action, right? But this section now we are going to configure inside a harness rule. Okay, so from the user interface, create a harness. So harness is also container of section. So we are going to just drag and drop the section into the harness here. So we'll have an option called drag and drop section here. So what are the section you want to place? Just we'll drag and drop. Once refresh. Okay, select, and exactly you'll get a text label here, right? Drag section here. You'll get a line, orange line. So just to place the section there. Okay, so the total section is copied inside the harness, and here you will have some options like adding the title for this. If you want to give any title, go to layout settings, this container. Okay, this is just a container of a section. We cannot modify any design here, so it is just a container of a section. So if you want to give any title for this, we can give a title. Click on OK, and more than this one, you will have option to add your custom buttons. Okay, if you want to add any custom buttons, So first of all we have a button control is there. Okay, so designs also will be there in the real time, so button designs and all. So where you want, left side or middle or in the right side, where you want to place the button, you can drag the button option there, click on allow access. So if you want to change the label and all, go to settings, button settings. So button caption, what are the caption you want to give caption, and some action we can set, some default action. So go to create an action set. So we have something called process work, and under the, okay, first of all define the event. Okay, button will be, click is the event for the button, and action under the process work we'll have some option called save. Go to all actions, we have a option called save, just to give the control for this. So in the back end we'll create an activity and we have to configure inside the harness that one. So here we are giving an action. Okay, no need to give activity here. So that activity from the link settings we have to configure. Okay, so here we'll add the button and we'll just give the label for that, and we are going to set event and action for that. Now save this harness. So generally flow actions means we'll call in a flow, but harness we can configure from the control settings. So what is the control we are using here? In the other section, if you see, my requirement is when I click on that link, it should open that form. Okay, this form it should display. So now this harness is there, right? So this harness I am going to configure in the link control settings. Okay, so in this form already link control is given. Go to this settings. Now we need to set an action here. Go to actions, create an action set. Okay, link right, event will be click, and action. So under the action we have something called launch option. Under the launch we can use the option as harness. If you go to add an action, go to launch category. If you click on all actions, we have something called launch category. Under this select harness. Under the launch select harness. Okay, here we need to fill some parameters. So how you want to display this form? Okay, so whether you want to display in a pop-up window or replace the current window. Okay, I'm taking a pop-up only. Okay, and we can access from the same class only. If it is a harness in a different class, we cannot access. So we must, while creating the harness rule, it must be from the same class. So give the already class name is there. In the drop down select the harness rule name, and by default it is showing the option as read only. So if it is a read only means we cannot enter the input. So select no option, some name, window name it is asking as a mandatory field. Okay, now if you want to map this records means what are the values we entered in the form, if you want to map to any database means we can configure activity separately and we can call in this settings. Okay, so here we can give the name of the activity for saving the data to the database. Okay, now click on OK. Save the section. Okay, already we have a flow configured. Okay, directly run that flow. Okay, our requirement is if I click on the link, it should open a page in a new pop-up window. Okay, in the developer environment we'll just test it. So these are all the fields. So we'll get a button here. So once after entering the data, if you click on submit or register user, it will automatically save the data to the data table. Okay, so like this same thing we can also achieve using flow action also, but so the process will be slightly different. Okay, if it is a flow action, we have to launch from the launch local action we have to use. If it is a harness means, so we'll directly configure a section define in a harness, and harness will launch from the link settings or control settings. What are the control you take? So button or link, the process will be same. So like this, so harness will be, it's like a new work object. So generally it will create a new form and new work object it will generate. Okay, and same thing if you take a flow action, it's like it's not a separate work object, it's like a series of, when we can configure a flow action means in a flow if you want to configure series of forms, so then we can go with the flow action rule. Okay, so most of the cases we'll use flow action, and any controls like link or button if you want to configure means we'll configure inside the harness rule. And coming to the harness in other things like flows, already I showed you how to use the screen flows. Inside a screen flow, so harness is an option to change the template. So generally in a screen flows, if you want to change the template of that screen flow means from the start settings, start shape settings, so under the start shape settings you will have a harness option will be there. From the harness option we can change the template there. So if you change the template, the appearance of the page will change automatically. So by default, if you don't change any appearance means the default appearance will be there. Okay, if you want to change the appearance of the page like any tree navigation or tabbed navigation, so those navigations and templates we can change from the harness option. Okay, so apart from that, so nothing we will do inside the harness. Okay, just in order to change the template only, so the harness option is included inside the screen flows. And in the process flows also we will have a harness option. So for example, if you open any process flow, so here it will take everything will be taken care by the process only, no need to define manually anything here. So but generally in the process flows some types will be there, some harness types will be there: new harness, perform harness, confirm harness, and review harness. Okay, these things will be only in the process flows only. So what these things will do means in the backend, so for example, so whenever we design any flow and some assignments and all, for example we'll take a first assignment, then some second assignment. Okay, in between if there is any conditions or anything it will take care. So for example, if this is a design, start shape, assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 3 and 4, finally end shape, and every in connector will give the flow action names. Here we'll pass a flow action, in the connector will give a flow action. So whenever we start the process means whenever we run the case, so first of all it will execute the first assignment. Okay, what are the first form is there, then it will be like a new harness. Okay, it will open a new harness page, it will open. So once we submit the data, once after submitting the data in the form, so once we enter the input in the form, and once we submit that form, after submitting the form, then it will perform the harness. Okay, so whenever it's in the new stage, it will be new harness. So once we give the input in the form and submit the form, so then it will perform the harness. So once we submit the form, it will perform the harness, then again it will jump to the second form, again here it will be in the new stage. Okay, again a new screen will appear, again it will be new harness, again we'll give some input in the form and we'll submit this one. Okay, again it will perform that one, and finally again it will be in the new harness. Once we submit the data, it will perform the harness like this. So these stages and all, it will taken care by the process in the backend. Okay, so that is also in the form of harness. It will take all these things, it will take care all these things in the backend. And finally, after completing the entire page, so whenever we complete on the, so whenever the process is completed, so it will give some confirmation message. If you see, by default also, once we submit any form, so by default we'll have some confirmation. Okay, so give some input in the form, and we have to give a exact input we have to give. So once after submitting, okay, here only one form is there. First name, enter valid name. First name is not there. Okay. Okay, I'll show the other thing. See, in something called data transform will be there. By default PEGA will set some custom message. So that is nothing but a confirmation message. So once we submit any form, means the entire flow is completed, right? So by default we will get a default confirmation message, thank you for your input. Okay, so this is already set in the backend in the using the data transform. Okay, so if you want to update, so we have to manually create a custom message and we have to update the rule here. So this is the default message, a default confirmation message which is set in the backend. Okay, so generally, so once we complete the entire flow, it will give a confirmation message. Some default message is already set in the PEGA. And review, if you, okay, review will not work here. So review means once after submitting the entire form, okay, it's a like a read only thing. If you want to review the values, what are the values we submitted, it will be in the review stage. So like this in the process flows, so harness will be in 4 different stages: new stage, perform stage, confirm stage, and review stage. Okay, so new is it will take the input, and perform it will running means once we complete the process, so it will perform the harness. And confirm, after completing the entire flow, entire process is completed, means it will give a confirmation message. And review will give the, it's like a, if you want to review the form or review the data whatever we submitted in that particular thing, so it's like a read only harness. Okay, so read only thing, so where we can review the values submitted in the form. Okay, so these things will be taken care by the PEGA process only. Okay, so manually will not, no need to enter anything inside the harness, everything will be taken care in the backend in this process flows. In the previous versions means we can manually we have to give, but right now not required. Okay, everything will be, so process will take care of about all the start settings and everything, case settings and all, it will taken care by the system itself. So generally, so practically if you want to create, you will be using the user interface harness in the applications. And some scenarios in the screen flows, so in order to change the template option, you will be using the harness option in the start shape settings. That one once again, if you want to see inside a screen flow, I showed in the previous sessions. Once again, from the start shape settings, if you open the, again if you open the process flow start shape settings, this option will not be there. Only inside the screen flow only we'll have this option, harness option, and some templates will be there. Okay, so what are the required templates? If you want to define any template in the screen flow type, means from the start shape we can define. But if you open a process flow, and if you open the start shape settings of the process flow, we will not have any template like that. This harness will not be there. Only in a screen flows only that option is available. Okay, so like this. So harness is mainly user interface rule, so only they will ask you the differences in between the flows and user interface. So then you can say, so difference will be, so in user interface it is used to creating a new work objects, and in flows it can be used to change the appearance of the work objects. Okay. Now we'll see another topic, application documentation. Okay, so this application documentation is taken care by the, okay, wizard will be there. In PEGA there is no need to create a documentation manually here. Automatically PEGA will generate a document, so based on the application, okay, based on the application. So, and if you want any documentation for any case level, okay, so before adding a case we will select the rule set, then inside the rule set, so based on the case we can generate a documentation, or based on each rule type also we can generate. Okay, based on the rule type and based on the rule, okay, different levels will be there. But if you want to generate for the entire application means, so what are the default things or default settings we have, we will go with the default settings. Or else if you want to generate a documentation for any specific rule set or any specific case, manually we'll select from the rule set option and the case option, and from the rule type option and the rule option we have to select all the things step by step. Okay, so final thing is, so PEGA will generate a documentation. So auto means from starting whatever we have done, so till end, so it will show the entire process. Okay, so in a document format it will show everything. So what are all the cases we created, so what are all the rule sets we have, application names, rule set names, then what are the flows we generated, what are the conditions we defined, what are the properties we created, what are the activities we created, what are the forms we designed. So it is going to show the entire structure of the entire application, okay, in one document. Okay, so that is nothing but application documentation. And whenever a review meeting happens, so client meetings happens, so they can take this document, and so it will be helpful at the review times. And also any new developer joins in the middle of the project, so in order to get an idea about the project, entire project, so when they refer this documentation, so they will come to some idea. So what are the modules we have in this application, so what are the things created till now, so what are the types of rules generated. So overall when they refer the documentation, they will be getting some idea about the application. Okay, so this will be automatically generated by PEGA systems only, and it's a simple steps, so very easy. If you go to Designer Studio, from the application, tools, document, no, it will open one document wizard will open. So inside the document wizard, just we have to select the application name will be there automatically, and all the rule set names will be there, case names will be there. So, and rules we have to select manually. Okay, so rules we have to select manually. And when you do in your systems, it will install the software, Microsoft Silverlight software, it will install. So let it install, then only we can generate the documentation. So when you do in your systems, right, it will install Microsoft Silverlight software in your systems. Okay, and inside that, without this we cannot generate the documentation. So automatically it will install and it will run in the backend, then it will open in a document, in Word document it will open. No, not a specification document, just a review document. So for entire application, just a review document, it is not a specification document. So till now, what are the things we created in the application? It will just generate a visual, it will generate a documentation for the entire thing. It is not like a specification or requirements document. It's like a review document. Okay, in order to review the what are the things we created inside the application, it will show all the things in one widget. Okay, in one document it will show. So here at application level, so first of all, already application name is selected. So below that you'll have all the rule set names will be there. So but here we are not using all the rule sets. So if you click on make selection, we are using a rule set name as, so what is our application name? With the same name we are using our rule set. Okay, my app 7 is the rule set name here, and just to click on OK. And coming to the cases, okay, inside this rule set we are having 3 cases. Okay, all the 3 cases are already selected. Okay. If you want to generate documentation only for a particular case, you can uncheck the other options and you can enable only one case. For example, if you want to document only for the recharge case, enable only the recharge option and disable the other things. If you want to create a documentation for all the cases, click on select all, click on OK. And next, below that you will have document sections. So document sections means for which rules you want to generate a documentation. For example, correspondence, integrations, decision rules. Okay, security service level we didn't define, activities, properties, declarative rules and all. I'm going to generate the documentation. Click on OK. Okay, now click on next option. Click on next. Click on next. And click on document now. Okay, it will open a new Word document. Okay, who created this, at what date or what time, that overall content it will give. And from starting application creation setup level, what are the things given in the setup, then what are all the rule sets, what are all the cases configured, and inside each case what are all the flows we have. Okay, so loading is completed. So just open this one. So first of all, it will give a content, copyright issues, contents and all. Then starting with the application setup level, what are all the name of the application, we have given business objectives given in the application. Then what are all the cases we defined in the application. Then what are the rule set is generated. Then under each case, if we configure any stages in process, it will show them. And from the case, what are the flows we configured, it will show. Okay. Then other things like what are all the conditions we defined in the application. And activities, it will only give the names, not the methods and logic. Only the names of the activities, property names used in the application. Or declarative rules created in the application. All these things it will generate. Okay, it's just a review purpose only. Okay, so not mandatory. It's just for review purpose, but in the real time we will generate documentation for our review purpose. Okay, so it's a simple thing. So just to go to wizard option, so application menu, so in the tools option, click on document and just enter the information, and automatically it will generate the documentation for us. Okay, if you want, you can save this file in your local system. And next thing is import and export. How to export an application, first we'll see. So exporting an application means, see, once completing all the rules in the application, so once we complete the design of the application, see, generally where the application is saved currently means inside the rule set the entire application is saved. Okay, means what are the things we created inside the application. So generally the location is currently inside the application. So all the data inside the application is saved inside a rule set here. Okay, so from the rule set, so we have to configure, means we have to copy all the rules and we have to save the file. Okay, we have to export all the rules inside this application, and once we export the data, right, it will save in jar format. Okay, it will generate a jar file and all the rules will be saved in a form of jar format. Okay, so that jar file, whatever we exported, right, so we have to import into production server. Okay, import that file into production server. Okay, so there then testing and quality will be done, and any changes, any suggestions, so testing team will guide some changes to us. So accordingly again we have to do some modifications and changes to it. So like this. So before, in the developer environment, if you want to export all the data from this server, means we have to use the export option. And here if you want to perform export, means okay, we have different modes of exports, so based on that we have to go with each type. Okay, we have different exports like export by rule set, export by product, and export by package. Okay, so like different export modes are there. Okay, each type will have its own requirement. So export by rule set means it's a very easy thing. So directly we will select the name of the rule set and everything inside the rule set will get exported and it will save the jar file. Okay, and if you want to use these options, means again we have a widget for that. Export widget is there. From the export widget we can use these options. So first of all, I will show the export by rule set option. So export by rule set means, so currently in this application we are using only one rule set. So by default it will take the rule set name and automatically inside the, because everything from the work classes, from the data classes, whatever we are creating till now, everything is saved inside the same rule set, right? So we can directly select the application name, rule set name. Okay, no need to select even application also. So directly rule set name will be populated. So just enter the name for the jar file and directly click on perform export. Okay, I will show it now from where we have to create. So from the designer studio, from the application menu, we have to create this export option. Once refresh application. Okay, go to designer studio, application, distribution, click on export option. Okay, here by default you can see, so export mode is nothing but by rule set or version is there. Okay, and other options is, okay, so not package, it's like a patch. Okay, so generally by product or by patch we will use. Okay, here if you see, so when I select the mode as rule set or version, so by default the rule set name is added here. Okay, by default rule set name is added. Only thing is we have to do, just give the file name. So what are the name you want to give for the jar file, give the name for the jar file and click on perform export. It is a easy thing. So if you want to do export entire application from your personal edition, means you can follow this process, but in the real time they'll follow either by product or by patch they will use. Okay, they can also use this option also, but in the real time we'll have different changes and every time we'll do the modifications by different modules, right? So generally in the real time we'll be using multiple rule sets. So when we have multiple rule sets, so we'll go with the product option generally. Okay, so export by product we will use. Okay, this is by export by rule set means, so just give the name of the rule set and just give the file name. So with this file name it will generate a jar file and save this jar file in your local system. And in the future, for example, if you, for example, PEGA software is crashed, okay, then no need to create the every setup again, application setup and all no need to create. So directly you can use the once again install the software. So if you go to any default application also, if you go, so in every default operator ID also you'll get this option, that is application. In the default operator ID also you'll get an option called application, and distribution will be there. Just click on import option and browse for this jar file and automatically click on next. So the file will get, application will get imported into the server, PEGA server, and we can reuse that application if you want. Okay, so in the personal edition, if you want to export your data, means export your application, means you can follow this process. Okay, but in the real time we'll be having multiple rule sets will be there, and okay, export by package, no, we can call it as a patch. So in the real time generally we'll follow export by product or export by patch option. Okay, patch means suppose already product is generated, if you want to add any patch, means if you want to add any modifications done in the product, means so we will go the export by patch option. Okay, first of all I'll show export by product option. So export by product means, see, generally before that, so product we have to create a separate rule. If you want to go with this option, means from the sysadmin category. Okay, so first of all the difference between export by rule set and product means, see, rule set means, so directly will give the rule set name and everything inside the rule set will get exported. But here the thing is, we can do for only single rule set. Here using this option we can only do for single rule set. If it is only, if in your application if you use only one rule set, means then we will go with this option. But in the real time the thing is, they will use multiple rule sets for each and every module. They will use a separate rule set they will use, then this option is not supported. Okay, so in the real time they will use multiple rule sets. Okay, if we have multiple rule sets, means then we have to go with this option, export by product or patch we can use. Okay, so if we have multiple rule sets, we cannot go with a single rule set option. Okay, so if we have multiple rule sets means generally we have to go with the by product option. So how to use this or how to generate this product rule means, from sysadmin category we have a rule called product rule. From there we have to generate the product rule. Okay, we will see. Right click on class. Okay, from any class we can generate. If you go to sysadmin category, we have option called product option. So if already product is upgraded means, if you want any changes, then we can go with the product patch option. So if you are creating for the first time means, so we'll go with the product option. Okay, give any name. So product version means here I can give the date. Click on open. So we'll have some options here. So first of all, we'll include the name of the application. Okay, application name. In the real time we'll give the versions and all. Next, okay, I told you here we can include multiple rule sets. Okay, if we have more than one rule sets means, so we can use the product option and we can include one after another. We can include multiple rule sets here. But even though in person edition right now we can only use only one rule set only we can use in person edition. So we are adding our rule set name, same name, application name, what are the name we have, with the same name we'll have the rule set name. Okay, in the real time we'll have the version numbers and all we can configure in the real time. Then if we have more than one rule set means, we can click on add a row and we can add multiple rule sets here. Okay, but in the product by rule set means export by rule set or version, we don't have option to add multiple rule sets. But if you having more than one rule sets means, we have to go with the product option. Okay, here we can define multiple rule sets here. Then we have one more option called class instances to include. Okay, I told you in the starting sessions that inside the rule set all the data will be stored inside a class instance based on the rule type. For example, so why generally if you want to include the entire application and entire data means no need to define any class instance. But if you want to define any specific rule types, for example, if you want to add only the section rules, or if you want to add only the activity rules or any property rules or anything means, then we'll define this class instance to include. Okay, class instance to include means, for example, for every rule there will be some class instance will be there. Okay, what are the rule we have? Based on the rule type, PEGA will provide some class instances. If you take a property, rule-obj property is the class instance. I told you, so generally all the rules whatever we are creating in the application, they will be saving inside a location called inside the application, inside the rule set, inside class instance, all the rules will get saved. Okay, so here inside the rule set, so all the section rules will be saved under one class instance, all activity rules will be saved under one class instance. So like this. So if you want to add any set of rules, all the property rules if you want to define means, we can add the class instances. Okay, in the drop down we'll have some classes here. So based on the property we'll have, based on the rule type we have to define this class instance. Suppose if you want to know the class instance for property means, rule-obj property is the class instance. See, rule set is a workspace, and inside that workspace this is a class instance is a so main class. So inside this only all the rules will reside. So inside the rule set we'll have these instances will be there. So based on the rule type they will divide, all the rules will divide based on the class instance. So properties rules will reside in this instance. And if you take any, for example, class is there, all the classes are created in the PEGA, right? So many classes, work classes, data classes, all the classes will save inside the instance called rule-obj class. Okay, all these are in the inside rule set only, but again inside they will create a separate folder, like it will generate, and inside that folder it will save all the data. So properties will reside in this class, and all the classes in the application, work classes and data classes, will reside in this class. And if you take any other things like sections will be saved under inside the rule set under the HTML class instance, rule-HTML section, all the section rules will save, and flag action rules will save under rule-obj flag action. So like this, every rule contains some class instance. So flow saves under rule-obj flow. So rule-obj. Generally it is not required to add all these things. If you include this parent rule set, generally everything will get added. Okay, why I am telling this one means, if you want to add only, suppose when we actually not in this rule, when we do the patch option, there is one more rule called product patch. But the thing is, options will be common in both the things. Okay, so there are two types of rules are there, product rule and product patch. But the options will be same for both the rules. Generally when we are doing the patches or anything, suppose, so when we do the product patch, so in that scenario where we will add these instances. For example, if you did any changes to any rule, so just an option is given, it is not mandatory that compulsory you have to include. Okay, it's not mandatory that you have to include all the class instances. Generally if you add the application name, automatically everything inside the class instance and all the rules inside the class instance will get added. Okay, just I'm telling how to use this option, I'm telling. But once if you include the application name and rule set name, so generally everything inside this rule set will get exported. Okay, there is no need to add every time these class instances here. Okay, so if you include the rule set name and inside the rule set what are the things we have, everything will get exported. But so I'm telling the purpose of this option. Anytime if you want to in the future, if you want to export all the property rules, means we will add this class instance. If you want to export all the class rules, means we will add this class instance. And if you want to include all the section rules, means we will add this class instance. Okay, so like this we'll have different names. For example, for the decision rules, the class instance name will be rule-declare-. So for the decision table, rule-declare-decision table. For the decision tree, rule-declare-decision tree. For declare expressions, rule-declare-expressions. For on change, declare-on change. For pages, data pages are there, right? Rule-declare-pages. So like this, for every rule, so there will be some class instance will be there. Okay, so based on that, if required, so not mandatory, if there is any requirement like that, if you get any requirement like that, so we can add the class instance to include. Again we'll have one more optional thing like individual class instance to include. Again, when we will use this option means, for example, entire application is exported, but you did some changes to some few rules, like in the user interface you did some changes in the section, or some modifications you did in the decision rules. Okay, only that particular, only one single rule if you want to include, means any individual rule if you want to include, means from here we can include. Okay, see, it's not right now, when if you want to export the entire application, means this thing and this thing is not required. Okay, whenever you want to export the entire application, means class instance to include and individual instance to include is not mandatory. Okay, here, but the purpose here is anytime if you want to include only one rule type in the application, if you want to export only one rule means we can add in the individual to include option. So here, so how to include any individual, for example I want to define one condition, only one condition rule I want to configure in this product. So open any condition. Okay, in the personal edition it will be somewhat like a difficult thing. So you'll get so many default things you will get, but I will show the process. For example, I want to add only this condition. Okay, only this single rule I want to add. So then from here we can having the option called individual instance to include. So here first of all, actually where the decision table will reside, all the decision tables will reside in the rule hyphen declare hyphen decision table, right? So first of all we have to select a class. So under which class all the decision rules will reside, select the class name. Now click on query, or else click on this open option. Okay, sorry, not open. Open means it will open the decision rule. So click on query option. So it will open a new pop-up window, and actually not only the rules under the class, so many in the personal edition, so many default other rules also it will populate here. From this list we have to select our condition. So in this select D underscore table 1 is the condition, right? So which is under this class work hyphen bank hyphen table. So select that condition and click on OK. Means if you want to add any single condition or any single instance means we will use this option. But when we will use means, so in the patch, whenever you want to update the product, already product is upgraded. So whenever you want to use the patch option, so then we will use this option. Okay, so but in this scenario not required. Just I am showing the option. If you want to include individual units also, there is a scope is there. Okay, so next thing is option is query jars, jar files to include. So jar files to include means if we have inside already, if we have any existing jar files are there. So right now we don't have anyone. So but suppose already if product is created for some other things, so some other rule set or some other class, and if you want to include that existing jar files to this product means, so we can click on query jars and we can add any existing jar files are there in the server. We can add them into the product rule. Okay, so this is also optional thing. And finally, so save this product. Some unlocked rule sets will be there. Enable that one. Save this product. Now after saving this product, you can directly create the jar file from the same rule. Means directly we will get an option here. So directly you can click on create product file and give the name for the jar file, or else after saving the product, go to Designer Studio, application, distribution, export. So in the drop down select export by product. So by default it will select the, you will get the product name and version. Just to give the file name and perform export. So any procedure you can follow. So you can directly create the product from the same rule. Where is that one? So from the same rule you can click on the create product file. Okay, what happens if you click on create product file? It will ask for the file name. Click on OK. So it will load the data. Okay, so that is one process. So it will load all the records. And other process is after saving the product, so go to this widget, application distribution widget, and from here also you can select the option as export by product, and you can select the name of your product. And okay, it will take some time because it need to load all the records. Okay, you can follow any process. Okay, either directly from the same rule you can create the product file, or else from the Designer Studio go to widget option. So select the export mode as by product, and automatically it will take the name of the product name and the version, and just give the file name and automatically it will save the file. Okay, it will take some time and it will take so much memory from the server. Okay, when you finish the application, not now, so at the end of the application, when everything is done, you can follow this process. Okay, so easy in the personal edition, you can easily select export by rule set is sufficient. This product and all not required in the personal edition. So in the real time means if we will have multiple rule sets and we'll be doing the modifications in the runtime, so they will use the product option or patch option they will use. But in the personal edition, directly we can use rule set option you can use. Okay, so give the file name and save the file in your systems. Okay, so another option is there, a package option or patch option. That one I'll tell you tomorrow. So this is export modes, means in the developer environment, what are the things we have created, right? Automatically, so the entire project means entire application we can export and we have to save in a form of jar format. Okay, so that jar file, so later other team, there will be separate teams. Okay, developer and task will be, so till completing the designing the application in the developer environment and exporting the data is till the developer task. So later moving to the production server and doing the, so testing and all, separate team will be there for that. Okay, so once again the other option will be there, so that option you will get in, I'll show in tomorrow's session. Okay, any questions? Yes, tell me. Okay, rejoin again. I need to, I will stop the screen, rejoin again once again.